here we are.
Welcome.
What? Over in our auxiliary set. We need a name for this. We need a name for this place. Because it's not the Power Zone.
It's not the Power Zone. It used to be the Power Zone.
If you have a name, a clever name
for
this
thing that we never use.
Let us know in the comments. Anyway, we're here with Ishmael Johnson because Ish.
Yeah.
It's time for college football burning questions. We don't have an intro.
I was ready. I was waiting for the cue. Like, oh, does Pickle have a thing going?
We don't have an intro yet. But we are going to break down the college football weekend, week one of the 2021 college football season across the state of Texas. We've got games to get to, of course. You can listen to Republic of Football, which we recorded yesterday. So make sure you subscribe to Republic of Football and follow at DCTFCFB. It's up there on the screen. You're the best source for college football in the state of Texas. Are you ready to answer some burning questions about week one?
Let's do it.
Pickle, what's question number one?
All right, guys. Question number one. ... Is UTEP fixing to be 2-0?
They better be. But the short answer, yes. I think we talked about it. It's been since 2005 since they were 2-0. Because they always schedule like one of the money games with like Texas or Houston or something in that first or second week. And yeah, I mean, regardless of how they got these wins, I think that the fact that UTEP's going to be 2-0, considering what they need to accomplish kind of in this year for Dana Dimmel, they're about to be 2-0.
They're playing Bethune-Cookman, and they better be 2-0. Yes. Because you want to talk about all the goodwill they've built up over the past 7 days, right? With that big, emphatic win over New Mexico State. If they fart around against Bethune-Cookman, it's like it's all that's out the window. Right. I go back to being like, oh my gosh, UTEP's a disaster. But they could be the first 2-0 program in the state.
That's insane to think
there
about.
There is a theoretical
How about
world.
them Miners?
There is a theoretical world where they're the only 2-0 team in the country.
Yeah, there is a theoretical world. I think it says something about their confidence in it that I believe Deion Hankins is doubtful for the game. I think that's more of a precaution because they shouldn't need him to beat Bethune-Cookman. So I think Quez Wadley should be okay, and that should be enough to get them through. And we'll be talking some Miners.
We will be talking some Miner football. All right, what's next, Pickle?
Up next, where is insert name of school?
You don't know how to say that?
Duquesne.
Oh yeah, we talked
Growing
about
up, I thought it was Duquesne for the longest.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I feel like it does the question a lot of justice if I don't even know how to say the name of the school. So where is it, fellas?
Duquesne is in Pittsburgh. We learned that.
I guess Chicago
Sure.
Yesterday on Republic of Football.
Duquesne's in Chicago, or rather it's in Pittsburgh. Yeah. You got me confused. Now, I will say they are not a lunch meat FCS team. They went 4-1 in their spring season and played in their league's championship game, lost in overtime to Sacred Heart. Sacred Heart got the auto bid into the playoffs. That said, TCU should roll.
Sure.
I mean, TCU should roll in this game. I'm excited to see what the offense looks like under new leadership. Excited to see how Max Duggan looks, who is one of the rare known commodities in college football quarterbacking this season. And yeah, I want to see the defense absolutely get back to vintage TCU defense.
Yeah, right. I want to see O'Shawn Mathis. I want to see those guys up front really assert themselves in the pass rush because that's where TCU's been good, not great, but typically great Gary Patterson teams are great in the pass rush, and I want to see them get back to that with that front four.
Yeah. So don't anticipate any problems for TCU. If there are, then we will certainly be talking about them.
Yes.
What's next, Pickle?
Up next, what would signify success for the Aggies in their opener?
I'd say a dominant defense, and I'd say weathering the early storm, because we mentioned this on Republic of Football where Kent State's a good team.
They're a solid MAC team.
They lost a lot, so it's a very young team, rebuilding team, but Sean Lewis is a good head coach. And this is a game that, if you look in the first quarter and it's 10-7, right, at the end of the first quarter, it's about A&M getting past that and kind of reaching that next step of dominance, because I remember the thing for me for A&M is the next step isn't just beating like a Florida or something like last year. It's asserting themselves in the games where they struggle, right? It's really having those blowout wins that you see the Bamas and the Clemsons do all the time. That doesn't happen with A&M, right? Even in the games that they fairly control, LSU, something like that, against teams that they're clearly better than, they don't roll, right? And so I wouldn't be shocked if this is a close game at the end of the first quarter, but that's after that first quarter. This final score should be 35-7, should be 42-10, right? That's where they should really assert themselves and really take control.
It's okay if you don't step on the gas from the word go.
Right. You still have Haynes King coming into his first game.
But by halftime,
Yes.
you need to be standing on the gas.
100%.
And what's interesting is that I mentioned this on Republic Football. Kent State has a good quarterback.
Yeah.
Dustin Crum, I believe his name?
Crum.
Dustin Crum, that sounds right, is their quarterback. He is a really solid player. And so they're going to test him. They're going to test this defense. But A&M is, and clip this, A&M's in no danger of losing to Kent State, in my opinion.
Yeah.
What I want to see from them is this defense take an offense that's really good and put them in there, and dominate them because they're going to face really good offenses over the course of the season. And I also want to see Haynes King look like he's in control of the offense. Looks
100%.
like he understands the offense. If they get that done and get the win, obviously, check mark, move on to the next one. You're not going to win a national title against Kent State.
Right.
But what you can do is go out there and prove that you're national title caliber by going out there and taking care of a team you're very clearly better than. So there's that. What's next, Pickle?
All right, up next, let's talk UTSA at Illinois. Would UTSA at Illinois actually be that big of an upset? The spread's only 5.5 on 6:30 on Saturday.
I say no. And I know everybody's kind of going crazy because Illinois is 1-0.
Right.
Brett Bielema goes and gets a win in his opener over Nebraska. I think Nebraska might be butt. And,
Breaking news.
And I think this is not breaking news here on this show. I think UTSA is really good.
Yeah.
And I think they've got not just a good chance to cover this 5.5 point spread. I think that they have a legit 40%, 45% chance of winning this game and really making a statement.
I still think it's going to be an upset because of the way Illinois is going to want to play this game and how they're going to want to control. Because we know Brett Bielema teams, you mentioned it, run, play action pass, right? Run, play action pass. Like typically that's how it always has
Very
gone.
Big Ten.
Very Big Ten. That's why, he's back in the Big Ten. That's partially why it didn't work in Arkansas. But they're going to want to really impose themselves on UTSA. And it's going to be that third quarter, that early fourth quarter, when they've been just trying to go at this UTSA defense. The UTSA defense is solid. The back end is where they can make plays. If they can get Illinois into some passing situations, Rashad Wisdom can make plays. We know that secondary is capable of capitalizing on their mistakes. But if they get into a grind-out game with versus Brett Bielema, they're probably going to lose because Sincere McCormick is fantastic, but he can't do it all by himself, right? He might get his numbers, but you're going to need Frank Harris there. You're going to need some of that vertical passing game that we've seen him struggle with at times. If they get into a clash 1-to-1 with Illinois, I think it's that goes in their favor, and so I will count this I'm going to count this as an upset if UTSA wins, just because they're getting a Power 5 team to play their brand as opposed to the one they want to play.
Frank Harris, we need you, man. Let's go. This is the time to play your best game because because that's the one thing. You want to talk about a game that'll put you on the map? Like we all know, right now, UTSA is like that hipster kind of sexy pick. Like, hey, by the way, UTSA actually is super good.
Yeah.
If they go and they beat a Big Ten school on the road,
early in the season,
everyone's
We've
gonna
been known.
especially a Big Ten team that's got a little buzz right now.
Sure.
They go on the road and they beat Illinois, everyone's gonna be talking about what Jeff Traylor's got cooking. So, all right, what's next?
Up next, let's go to Tarleton at SFA. SFA played a fall season while Tarleton played a spring season. Does that matter?
We're going to see. Because, I think that was smart by Colby Carthel to get that fall season in. Of course, there was no postseasons, and he willfully acknowledged that and basically said, we're just going to run a bunch of scrimmages with a bunch of guys that we want to get ready for this fall. And the rest of the FCS, with some exception, did the opposite. They went to the spring, and they didn't have spring camp. They kind of instilled a lot in the offseason. And is that going to carry over? I don't know if we'll know the true after effects of that until October, November, when we're possibly dealing with injury, fatigue, just wear and tear. But early on, SFA's had a whole offseason. I'm curious to see how that looks. I think that's going to play in their favor.
Well, and furthermore, in a 2020 season that was so strange, these are two teams that actually played a lot. Stephen F. Austin played, I think, 10 games, and I think Tarleton played 8 or 9. They played a lot of games. And so this is a really interesting, in a vacuum case study of how much does moving the season to the spring matter? Because, does Stephen F. Austin benefit from having that? I think Stephen F. Austin is probably your favorite in this game. I think this game has a chance to be pretty pointsy, but I think that this game is going to be really interesting in what it says about the after effects of such a strange 2020 season. Sure. So I'm really interested in keeping an eye on this Tarleton versus Stephen F. Austin game. What's next, Pickle?
Up next, let's head to Big 12 taking on the Fighting Ishmael Johnsons when Baylor. Who will look better? Will it be Gary Bohannon or Brady McBride?
I have two answers to this. I think Gary Bohannon will look better. I think Brady McBride is the better quarterback because Brady McBride's going up against the Baylor defense, and Gary Bohannon's going up against a very much revamped Texas State defense. Now, they're healthy, and I think on the back end is going to be huge because Texas State secondary is healthy finally. They added some good transfers like Nick McCann in the offensive line, but they're still a new unit for the most part together. They didn't play that much last year because they were all injured. And so I think Gary Bohannon there's a better chance that he looks better versus Brady McBride, who, again, I think is the better quarterback, going up against one of the best, probably the best defense in the Big 12, one of the best potentially in the country, and lighting that up.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, which is it matters who's on the other side of the ball, right? For Gary Bohannon, there's going to be plays to be made against this Texas State defense, plain and simple. And I think there still may be some growing pains as far as Gary Bohannon running Jeff Grimes' wide zone offense. What does that look like? We don't really know. There may be some growing pains. But I also know that while Brady McBride definitely has a better grasp of the offense, or should, that Jake Spavital wants to run, he's also going up against what could be at least a very good and maybe even elite defense there at Baylor in Dave Aranda's second season. So I look at this and I think you hit the nail on the head. I think Brady McBride may, in fact, end up being the better quarterback long term. But I do think that Gary Bohannon, by virtue of the matchup and by virtue of what they're going against and by virtue of the fact that the Baylor defense figures to be really good, may have the advantage in this individual game. I think, do you think, let me ask you, we're not doing picks against the spread on or anything. Do you think Texas State beats that spread?
I think I think it's about 20.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they lose by about 20.
Like 31-10,
something like that. Just because that's going to be the thing is like, can Texas State move the ball on this defense? And I just don't see it.
Yeah. Okay. What's next, Pickle?
Up next, Prairie View A&M at Texas Southern, 6 p.m. on Saturday. What percentage chance do you give Texas Southern to get its first dub since 2018?
Labor Day Classic.
Let's ESPN
roll.
Plus. Fun game there. It's at BBVA Compass Stadium there, the Dynamo Stadium down in Houston. 10%.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Here's the issue. So Texas Southern hasn't won a game since 2018. They have not won a game on the field in the Clarence McKinney era. And I wrote both previews for the magazine. I do think Texas Southern is going to be better. And I think they're going to get a win this season on the field.
They were one of the programs that really, we obviously everybody had to deal with COVID last year and everybody had to deal with 2020, but they were one of the programs that really got hampered by the spring season because, their one win was a forfeit again. I forgot who the forfeit came against, but it was a forfeit, so they only played 3 games, I think, after that. So it was the second year of Clarence McKinney. He had a year 0 in 2019. So
it was, he's rebuilding from the ground up. Right. This is a bad matchup in the first game because I think Prairie View A&M, I've said it before, I think they're a dark horse to win the SWAC. I think Prairie View A&M is the more complete team, especially if Trayvon Connolly, their quarterback, takes a step forward. I give, it's a rivalry game, and you never know. Week 1, crazy things happen. But I would give Texas Southern about a 10% chance. That's where I'm at. What's next, Pickle?
Up next, let's go ACU at SMU, a Texas rivalry there, 6 p.m. on Saturday. Tanner Mordecai, over/under on 4.5 total touchdowns.
I'm going to go under because I think that they have a stable of running backs healthy. I think they're going to want to get them all touches. And ideally, you'd want to pull Tanner Mordecai in the third quarter, right? And so I wouldn't be surprised if it's 3. If it's 5 seems like a lot for when you an offense that had Ulysses Bentley, TJ McDaniel, Trace Siggers, and I'm forgetting Tyler Levine. Those are 4 running backs that could all start anywhere in the state, and obviously he has Reggie Roberson back, and a lot of weapons. But 5 seems like a lot for a guy that you probably hope was not playing that fourth quarter.
I think you're probably right. It's a little overcooked in my opinion. But I would like to see, one of the guys that I'm really interested in seeing is Reggie Roberson. Where is he in his recovery and stuff like that? All returns are very positive. But game speed is game speed against an Abilene Christian team that is not lunch meat. A team that I think could challenge him a little bit. I think that if he's over 5 touchdowns, if he's over 4.5 touchdowns, something has probably gone wrong on the defensive side, and they need to keep him out there longer. But yeah, I'm going to go with the under on that one. I think he looks good out there, but I think you're right. I think they've got more pieces they want to get the ball to there. A lot of this comes down to how well does the SMU defense fare against an AC offense that can move a little bit. You know, Adam Durrell's squad is pretty solid, so that's one thing to keep an eye on. SMU shouldn't have a problem at winning this game, but keep an eye on that and how Tanner Mordecai looks. So if you were worried that Preston Stone didn't win the starting job, I think you might see him.
You'll probably see him
this weekend at the Hilltop. What's next, Pickle?
All right. The big one, Texas Tech in Houston, 6 p.m. on Saturday with a 1-point spread there. Is this a must-win game for both Matt Wells and Dana Holgorsen?
Yeah. I mean, it's weird to say that, but I think if you want to bet on, I guess, this win meaning more, it has to. I think it's Matt Wells. He needs this win a little bit more because I think that financially Houston, I think, is a little bit more gun-shy to pull the trigger on letting go of Holgorsen, but whoever loses this game, the narrative immediately starts out there on the hot seat because there's so many question marks around the kind of the projection of what they're trying to do. The reason why I lean Tech as the favorite is there are less question marks about what they're trying to do, and it's clear that Matt Wells knows what there was to fix. Right? Needed a quarterback, got a quarterback. Needed an offensive change, got a new coordinator. He realized the defense is in a good place. I think he has it in a good place. He realized that he has playmakers and a running back and wide receiver. He needed somebody to move that offense and maybe a different philosophy. Holgorsen, is Clayton Tune the guy that you really want running the quarterback, being quarterback at Houston? What's his direction? We remember that redshirt weird thing in 2019 that kind of fizzled out with how COVID hit, and there was just like so much that happened in 2020. I kind of threw that out the window. What's the trajectory under him now? The fact that this is week 1 for both these guys is insane because this sets the tone for whoever loses for the rest of the year.
I was listening to Split Zone Duo, one of our favorite podcasts, on the way in, and they talked about this game, and they called it one of the anxiety bowls of week 1. It's like, it's like whoever loses this game is going to, like, the narrative is set for the rest of the year. And so if Tech goes out there and beats Houston, like, all right, cool, everything's okay, let's get to a bowl game, and we're moving in the right direction. If Houston wins this game, it's like, okay, great. 2 weird years, but we've got a signature win now under Dana Holgorsen. We're moving in the right direction.
There might be a culture to the program.
Sure.
Wow.
Right. And so that's what's really going to be interesting here is there's a lot of benefits for winning this game. And in that same way, whoever loses this game, there's big tailspin potential for both these programs.
You feel like if you can see like the 3 strikes, you can see the 1 just getting slashed, like strike 1. Like
especially if one team blows out the other.
Oh,
like if Houston goes out there and pulls down Tech's pants on national TV, like there's going to be some serious conversations going on.
That's a long flight back to Lubbock at that point.
All right, what's next, Pickle?
All right, up next, Northwestern State at North Texas, 3:30 p.m. on a Saturday. Who are you buying stock in? Is it Austin Aune or the new guy in town, Jace Ruder?
I'm going to take Austin Aune. I think the fact that Jace Ruder has not come in and won the job outright in week 1 is telling. I think that's telling that, first of all, I don't know what the feeling around North Texas is. I think Austin Aune's pretty solid. I think as far as Conference USA quarterbacks is concerned, you can do a lot worse. I think their quarterback room is pretty good. I think the fact that Jace Ruder has not come in and just been like, hey, I'm the transfer in, it's my job, like what Tanner Mordecai did, right, at SMU. The fact that he hasn't done that makes me think that Seth Luttrell still believes in Austin Aune. I'm going to buy stock in the local kid.
I think I'm going to do the same. I think we'll talk about another quarterback situation involving a transfer in a bit. But, yeah, I see – I don't know. Austin Aune was okay last year, right? I think that what they tried to do with Jason Bean, they tried to add a different element to the quarterback position, which is understandable, right? They needed some more dynamism probably to that offense. But when he was in, the offense moved okay, right? I think you saw his limitations. But I think for – the fact that you mentioned it, that Jace Ruder hasn't really asserted himself shows that, okay, is the ceiling of the offense that much better without Austin Aune, as opposed to, I think the floor of the offense is pretty high.
Yeah.
You know,
think
you're
that's
not the offense is going to fall off a cliff with Austin Ani in the backfield, and so or under center. I think that I would buy more stock in Ani.
The bigger questions are going to be on defense, which hopefully
Has been the question for years.
Hopefully we don't have any answers to after this week, because if we do get answers against Northwestern State, they're all going to be bad. They're all going to be bad. So what's next, Pickle?
All right, up next, number 23, the Ragin' Cajuns taking on number 21, the Texas Longhorns. The spread's at 3:30 p.m. Which unit is most important to Texas avoiding an upset, which, like we've talked about, is not out of the realm of possibilities, guys?
Oh, no, guys. Louisiana's legit.
Yeah, I think it's the wide receivers. I think we know what they have at running back, Bijan Robinson. We know that what they have on defense. I think they have a really great front seven. I think their secondary could be potentially really good if they can figure out that other cornerback slot as far as consistency goes. But not even looking at Hudson Card or quarterback, I think it's going to be the receivers, because no matter what, it doesn't matter who you have at quarterback. If he can't throw to anybody that's reliable to him, I don't know. We knew that it was going to be between Hudson Card and Casey Thompson. We don't know who their number one targets are going to be. And I think that when you get into that depth chart, you look at the 1, 2, and 3 at the wide receiver position, there's somebody that has to emerge. Yeah. And so I think that's going to be the key, because no matter how Hudson Card does, no matter if Casey Thompson gets in, no matter how he does, it's going to depend on who they're throwing to. I
agree with everything you said, but I am going to pick the offensive line in this sense, because I think that as long as Hudson Card has time to throw, and as long as they're able to run the ball effectively with Bijan Robinson and Rashawn Johnson, whoever they got back there, as long as they're able to do that, the receivers will find a way. Sure. Like the receivers, we think there's enough talent in that room, albeit unrealized talent at this point, like Jordan Whittington, Josh Moore, guys like that. Yeah. That there's enough talent there that somebody will step up. If Hudson Card in his first collegiate start is running for his life, if Bijan Robinson is averaging 1.5 yards per carry, then they're in big trouble, because this Louisiana defense has a chance to be really good, really, really good. And by the way, their offense ain't going to be bad either.
Levi Lewis, a quarterback.
Absolutely. This is, I know if you're thinking, it's a Sun Belt team. This is not just a Sun Belt team.
You don't get ranked 23rd for nothing.
No.
That's in the nation, people.
The one we've talked about in Republic football. There's a real argument that they're underrated at 23. I mean, they're really good guys. So for Texas, it's a really important first game, and I think we agree that it's definitely on the offensive side is where the most important unit is going to be. All right, and what's next, Pickle?
Finally, hooting intensified, taking on Woo Pig Suey. 19.5-point spread, 1 p.m. on Saturday. Should Rice fans be worried that the Owls haven't named a starting quarterback? Everyone shakes their head yes.
Yes. So you bring in a guy who was at Nebraska, was at Louisville, and you bring in a Rice. You immediately think that's the guy.
It better be the guy.
A Power 5 quarterback comes to Rice, that better be the guy.
Yeah.
He hasn't been named the guy. Yeah. Wiley Green, love you. We know what that quarterback situation has been, right, for Rice. I believe Collins looked okay, but of course he's gone. So that was probably the best kind of shot they had. I don't understand. I mean, what I do understand is that Mike Bloomgren does not feel confident that Luke McCaffrey is what he thought he was, or the fit, right? Yeah. That's the other thing is he came from Nebraska, where they're kind of a little bit more spread and the quarterback moves around, to Stanford Light, right? And maybe Wiley Green fits that more, but there's also good possibility that Luke McCaffrey is not the quarterback that they thought they were getting.
Yeah, I think that's 100% true. This is much like that North Texas situation, except the North Texas situation is starting from a much higher floor, much higher baseline. That if Austin Ani is, I mean this in a respectful way, if Austin Ani is all you're getting, that's fine. You can win with Austin Ani. They proved it last year that they can win a couple games with Austin Ani. They'd obviously like to have better quarterback play, but everybody would, basically outside of Clemson.
Right. They tend to do
for
pretty
Rice,
well, right?
though, they're starting at such kind of a ground zero
level. The games
level.
they won last year, they didn't even have a great quarterback.
No.
Their defense played out of its mind.
Yeah, the Marshall game was all about the defense.
Right, and that's kind of that's where you're starting from, is okay, you're going to have this insane defense if you can't have the quarterback play that you want. And so you obviously want to not have to rely that much on your defense if you want to make some type of marked improvement, which I think we've seen that they've had under Mike Bloomgren last year at times, but they need something out of that quarterback.
I would love for it to be a case of like Wiley Green's just really improved and Luke McCaffrey just maybe doesn't
Right,
have
it feels like a Max Duggan situation where like
Yeah,
you see like Max Duggan taking a step from point A to point
Yeah.
B, and you're like, oh, that's a different quarterback.
Yes.
Right.
I would love to see that. I'd love to be surprised.
Right,
I'd love to be
fair,
surprised.
yeah.
But that is concerning to me. They were probably never going to go on the road and beat Arkansas.
Sure.
But I would like to see them show some signs of life offensively, and I'm worried about what we're going to see on Saturday. So there we go. That's burning questions for week 1 of the Texas college football season.
Thanks so much for watching that video. If you would like more and to be notified when they come out, go ahead and click that subscribe button right down there. You can also watch Texas Football Today every day live at noon on TexasFootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, and right here on YouTube. For more of the best coverage of Texas football in the Lone Star State, go to TexasFootball.com/subscribe.